Oh, my God. Karen Reed, not guilty. Holy mackerel, what a celebration. We were there for the whole thing, streaming our way all the way through it. We are going to go right to Dedham, Massachusetts, and we are going to speak to those who were involved in the inner circle the whole way through. Not guilty for Karen Reed. What a day. It's Hot Mics with Billy Bush, presented by our friends at LA Golf. Well. What a day. Karen Reed, not guilty. I'm going to tell you, I am exhausted. We have been streaming since 6 a.m. here, in and out, running back and forth between gigs. I'm telling you, folks, if you haven't seen it, take a look and take a listen. Here's Karen Reed as the verdict comes in.
Murder in the second degree. What say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you?
Charlie.
No. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do all of you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. 002. What say you? Is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Of.
Is not guilty or guilty about that charge or any lesser included charge? Thank you. Specifically, number 5, operating under the influence of liquor by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Correct?
Yes.
So say you, Mr. Foreman?
Guilty.
So say you all?
Yes. Guilty.
003. What say you? Is the defendant at the bar leaving the scene after accident resulting in death? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
You can hear the eruption through the walls of the courthouse as the crowd goes nuts. Who knows how many people were out there? Look to me, at least 1,500 to 2,000. I don't know. But I can tell you, every one of them, there they go. There's Karen Reed as we look at her exiting the courthouse, walking down with her unbelievable legal team. And it is quite the team, a bolstered team from the first trial. First time around, Alan Jackson. Look at the hand up in the air by Bob Alessi, who one of her lawyers. Alan Jackson, of course, the captain of the team right there, standing next to her. David Yannetti behind. Little George. You got interns. It's a whole team, a whole village that saw this through. I mean, look, there wasn't 1 ounce of support outside for the Commonwealth. And think about how unprecedented this is, because you've got a situation where a woman is on trial for murder, killing a police officer. And normally you're going to see, an uproar on behalf of the police. In this case, not an ounce. None. I mean, it's just every single person out there was for Karen Reed, because they got a big problem in Massachusetts. They got a real problem in this area with law enforcement and with the judicial system. They do. And this DA, Michael Morrissey, in Norfolk County, he's got a problem. And Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, is going to have to talk about this. And the only thing she should say if she wants political viability and long-term health is going to be, we have a problem and we're going to fix it. She's been awfully silent throughout the whole process. But I think of Karen Reed, this woman, early 40s, her 3.5 years of her life was given to this. 1 trial, a hung jury, a mistrial, and then they go at it again. They can't do that. There is no more trial for Karen Reed at this point. She is innocent. They got her on, they're gonna penalize her in the jury verdict slip that they amended in box number 5, a guilty box that you can check for operating under the influence. They're gonna get her with that. Fair enough. She had about 9 cocktails in there, however many. There was watered down, but there were several drinks, and that's obvious. But I mean, the house that she drove John O'Keefe, the boyfriend of hers, the Boston police officer, of whom she was, charged with killing. Just unbelievable. How about those people inside that house at 34 Fairview? Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, everybody. They How about them? Are they getting DUIs or OUIs in retrospect? They're police officers, supposed to be setting the tone. Unbelievable. We're going to go right now to one of Karen Reed's close friends, Nick Roco, a man who met the moment. You know, he's driving in his car right now back from the courthouse. Rocco, how you feeling, buddy?
Oh man, this is something we've been waiting for the past 3 years, and to walk out of that courtroom and see the crowd of people, I'd say there was about 2,000 people outside. They just filled the streets, and the eruption of cheers was like the Celtics just won the championship. It's just unreal because I honestly didn't think we were going to be here. I really thought we were going to be going towards a hung jury, but I'm glad they got it correct. And, you know, with the OUI charge, her punishment was 1 year probation, which, you know, that's first time offense OUI. That's what you get. You get probation. Hank didn't even suggest jail time. You know, he said, give her a year probation. He failed miserably. The Commonwealth failed miserably. And Michael Morrissey, the DA of Norfolk County, failed miserably. And we all knew this was going to happen. That's why we've been saying this for the past 2.5, 3 years. And it's just such a great feeling to know that what we've been preaching for so long is the truth.
Karen Reed, very lucky to have a friend like this, Nick Roco, talking to us. This is a man who owns a hair salon, and he, you know, like everyone else, was struck with the fact of a terrible, sense of injustice that was going on to this woman. They became friends through the process. He helped raise money through a GoFundMe for her because, you know, she's out of work and she's fighting this thing, and they got to pay for witnesses and stuff. They don't have the big checkbook of the Commonwealth, who can write checks all day long to, you know, 500, 400 grand to accident reconstructionist who's going to go and buy an extra Lexus to test his theories. So, you know, that was a big moment for you. What you did for her was huge. Have you had a chance to talk to Karen?
Yeah, I mean, I was with them all day today. Obviously, once they spoke on the courthouse steps, we all hopped in the SUVs. I'm not sure exactly where they went. One SUV had to go back to where we were all deliberating to get our cars. But yeah, I can only imagine how the team feels right now. You know, to see David Yannetti and all them start crying in court. You know, everything they put everything on the line because they truly believed in this cause, and they were proven to be correct today, as 90% of the population who's followed this case were proved to be correct today.
When they're sitting there, Karen's sitting there with her legal team, who've absolutely become family. I mean, she's got extended family in with all these people in Dedham and Canton and all in the surrounding areas and all across the country. I mean, I was sitting there on the stream, Nick, and I'm talking to people. I mean, I'm checking in with people are hitting me from, Cape Town, South Africa, from Scotland, from Italy, all over New Zealand. I mean, people checking in from everywhere, Nick, and they feel a part. They feel connected to her. They also feel this overall sense of this could happen to me. This could happen to my sister, my brother, somebody in my family. There's so much here. There's so much emotion. I've spoken to, I called my girlfriend, and she's in tears. She's crying, at this verdict, and doesn't know Karen from anybody. When before this verdict came out, just in those moments before, I mean, were they thinking hung jury? Were they thinking mistrial on the legal team? Was Karen thinking that, or was she thinking we got this?
No, I think, the defense team believed that they were stuck on the DUI charge. But the way it happened, basically, we were all sitting in there, and they just got a call that the judge wanted to see them. There was no indication that there was a verdict or that there was a question. It was just that the judge wanted to see them. So we hopped in the SUVs, we went there, and then, they did the whole, there's a verdict, but there's really not a verdict. So then we waited in one of the other courtrooms for about 10, 15 minutes. Then all over the internet, we start seeing the verdicts in. So Alan had gone over to the court officer and was like, why are we learning about a verdict through the media when you guys could have came and told us? So then they're like, okay, yeah, there's a verdict. They went into the courtroom and waited for the 10 minutes or so. And then it came out. I mean, you could obviously hear the eruption outside from anywhere you were. I
Through
mean,
the walls.
yeah, last year, and this is something amazing too, is last year the buffer zone was further down the street. They moved it further away this time. We fought back again and we won, but we won even bigger because now everybody got to be outside of the courthouse in the garage.
Wow. Hey, I got a text back from Victoria George, who was a juror, an alternate juror in the first trial. When the mistrial, when the hung jury happened, and she stepped out, she joined the legal team. I asked her to come and join us at some point. She goes, "Hello, I'm unable to talk today. Hi, 4 kids under the age of 5, but open to future discussions. She hasn't been home in forever. Have you been 4 kids under the age of 5? This woman, oh my God, she's a superhero. Have you? When's the last time you went home?
I'm home right now. I go home obviously every night, but it's been live in Dedham for Court TV. So being in Dedham from 8 in the morning to 4 o'clock, I don't want to sit around and wait until 8 o'clock to do the show. So I have been just doing it from my house. But tonight is the night that I have been waiting for a long time since I've started Court TV. I cannot wait to get on there and just let everybody know how wrong these people, these lawyers that I have been debating against for the past 2 years, owe every single one of us an apology. I'm going to say it on the air tonight because they were wrong, and I want to hear the words, "I was wrong," from every single one of them.
Well, you're not going to hear it from Joe Krosky, the criminal defense attorney you fought with, because he's going on he's a planned vacation. He's not fleeing
Yeah,
town.
no, I know where he. Yeah.
He's going on.
I've talked to Joe many times off of the air, and yeah, Joe's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
He's on the wrong side of things. He's real close with that side of the family and things like that. So listen, he stuck to his guns. I give him credit for going on and spewing what he spewed. And unfortunately, he was wrong. And it is what it is. There's always someone right and there's always someone wrong in a situation.
Have you been privy to conversations about the next steps for Karen Reed? What is she going to do? Is it a vacation? Is it I hope to God she does an interview with one of these network morning shows that and a bidding war happens and they fight over, and she gets $8 million to sit down with George stuff in envelopes and does a big interview.
I mean, I just had someone reach out and they asked me if she'd be willing to sit down and sign autographs, at either an hourly fee or per autograph you sign. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things coming her way. And unfortunately,
book?
She still has the civil trial.
When does that begin?
It's already started. Some people have been being deposed and things like that. I know Karen and her family were not to be deposed until after the criminal trial. So, all of that will start coming into effect as well. But having basically a full acquittal of not murdering John O'Keefe.
But this happens sometimes, right? When there's a criminal trial, there's a civil trial that's pending, and then the criminal trial comes through. It's a big, massive moment like that. Sometimes the civil trials tend to go away.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opposing side of this is not happy. So I don't see them personally wiping it away. But at the same time, I mean, I think that's
meaning
what would
Peggy
be right.
O'Keefe? You meaning the O'Keefe family?
All of them. I mean, all of them. The McCabe's and Alberts already put out a statement saying this is not the justice that John deserves and so on. And it's like, listen, you had 12 jurors last time. They basically acquitted her on charge 1 and 3. We don't know what the issue was on charge 2. Same time around, they acquitted her on 1 and 3, and they were hung on 2. And for the people who are out there saying that, the defense putting on the DUI charge is a bad move, it was a mistake. This is why they did it, because it gives the jury something to punish her for without letting her walk out of there, completely free. And, at the end of the day, those documentaries where she says she's drinking, whatever, she ultimately admitted to it. They found her guilty on that. She got a year probation. and now it can be all put behind her. I mean, all of us. I mean, all of us who have been every day involved in this. It's just finally now she's free. It's weird to say. It's always been free Karen Reed. Now it's Karen Reed is free.
Unbelievable. Are you standing in your yard right there? Did you finally make it home?
I'm home now. Yeah. Yeah, I'm home now.
Nick, you must be exhausted. What a...
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, I am so looking forward to tonight's show. I have been looking forward to this show.
Who's first? Who's first on your list? You're coming out guns blazing. I can feel it.
Well, it's me and DePietro live, and then we got two other people that are going to be doing it from home. No one is going to be. I'm going to name names. And if they cut the segment, they cut the segment. Tonight's my last Court TV episode, anyways.
Well, I got to tell you, if you better sell the salon or put it on, get someone else to run it. You need to go to law school, buddy, and just brush up past that bar. You missed your calling. You are my cousin Rocco.
I don't know. Maybe I could be a co-host on your show one day.
You sure can, buddy. And by the way, when I come to town, and I come through all the time, I'm supposed to be in Dedham in the end of July. I'm looking you up. We're going out, okay? And it's on me. Ham sandwiches.
Shoot me a message. You got my number.
I do, for sure.
All right, man.
Great
Listen,
man.
have a good night. Thank you for your coverage on this. I know the Reeds appreciate it. I was talking to Alan today about you, and I know he appreciates your coverage on this. So thank you again, and let's see what the next day brings.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Nick Roco right there.
Man.
Everybody needs a friend like Nick, okay? You need a friend like Nick. Vinny over there, babe. Vinny's working the chat. He's got the laptop up. Vinny, what's going on? Big guy.
Yeah, lots of support from all over the world, Poland, Germany. But we do have a question here from Laura. Can true justice be gotten for John now? Can the FBI take all of those corrupt people down? What do you think?
See, that's a big question. That's a big question. Everybody. There's a lot of talk about the feds coming in and doing an investigation because people. It's not just the Karen Reed trial that people in Massachusetts are. There is real distrust with law enforcement and the judicial system. It's like you can feel it. It's palpable. These are nice, hardworking, normal folk. Coming from Waltham and Peabody and all these surrounding towns, and these are nice ladies, and people in an uproar. I'll tell you what, I was fascinated with this whole jury deliberation process, and we tracked down this country's, one of its top experts in jury deliberation, and a professor at Cornell University, Valerie Hands. And she's with us right now. Valerie, thank you so much. We've been emailing back and forth, and you saw the verdict come in. Valerie, we all were like, whoa. Beverly Cannoni, the judge, said, "We have a verdict. They knocked on my door. They handed me a verdict, and then they knocked on my door and said, wait a minute. We got to take that back. It was sealed." And so they went and kept deliberating, and it seemed that they kept deliberating because they needed to check that little box number 5, which was guilty for operating under the influence. Was anything about this jury deliberation to you abnormal, or did it flow okay?
Well, can I first just say kudos to this jury? I mean, this was a lengthy trial with a lot of complicated evidence, scientific evidence, accident reconstructionologists, and the whole shebang, and public pressure, because this was a very high-profile trial, and a lot of people were really interested in what the jury was doing. I mean, we ask a lot of jurors, and I think this jury really stepped up. I also think they needed more help than they got. You've talked in some of your previous shows about the verdict slip, the verdict form that was so confusing to the jurors, and in fact, did lead the judge to amend it eventually. I mean, that was kind of an unforced error. As for the jurors,
did the judge screw up there in a big way? Because the defense asked specifically, did we want to amend this jury verdict slip because We think it's confusing. There's too many options for guilty. There's not enough many. They're not equal amount of opportunities for not guilty on these charges, which seems to be steering. They thought it felt like it could steer the jury towards choosing guilty. And Beverly turned it down. But it's the same problem. I think it's the reason why the first trial ended in a mistrial, because they were confused. And Beverly ended up reading to the courtroom that it was a mistrial on all three fronts, when in fact, counts 1 and count 3 were actually unanimous, not guilty, acquittal.
I know. It's like in a verdict form like this, we need to guide the jury. I mean, most of the people on the jury have no experience in law and, what a verdict form looks like and what you really want to do when you are crafting a form like this is kind of start with kind of ground zero and walk the jury through each of the steps it needs to take. So on each of the charges, offer guilty, not guilty. And it was clear that the jury was confused. And actually, I'm very happy the judge eventually said, yeah, let me amend the form. And now, in addition to that, let me very specifically walk through how to fill out this form so we're not going to have any problems.
Amazing.
In the future.
Valerie,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just take you off the screen for 1 second because we've got Turtleboy. This guy, I don't know if you've watched this guy. This guy, Aidan Kearney, is Turtleboy, and boy, he is really the harbinger for this whole thing. He really got the reason those 2,000 people are out there. If you can hang on for just a second, Valerie, that'd be amazing. But Turtleboy's only got a small window here. 2,000 people assemble in front of that courthouse, and the reason is him. So if we can bring up Aidan, I'll take him at any minute. Aidan Kearney, a.k.a. Turtleboy. The guy took it. There he is in his car. We got everybody on them. Hey, buddy, how are you feeling right now?
You're on top of the world, man. This is the greatest feeling ever. I'm just soaking it all in. My phone's blowing up, as you can imagine. Just feel vindicated, Billy. Feel vindicated.
I mean, it's a great. There's so many things here, but one of the macro issues that I think about is like the internet and how incredible it is in connecting people with, in this case, a sense of justice. You started this whole thing. You saw an injustice occurring and you got this thing going, started making noise, started telling people to come down. You built that crowd out there. It must feel pretty amazing to know that you can mobilize people like that.
It was pretty cool. I didn't think I'd ever do anything like this. I used to be a high school teacher. I never thought I'd be here, 10 years later doing this. But yeah, walking out of that courthouse today and just having a crowd chant Turtleboy, it was just like thousands of people. And it was the most surreal and amazing experience I've ever been part of.
Tell me about your words with Karen Reed after the verdict was read and the legal team.
There's no words yet. I missed. Alan Jackson called me when I was talking. I've been doing all sorts of interviews. Alan Jackson called me in the middle of it. I called him back, and I haven't been able to reach him. But I'm gonna see what they're doing tonight. I'd like to think that we need to celebrate.
The waterfall. Maybe the waterfall.
But I can't. Chris Albert has a 100-yard stay away order on me, so I can't go anywhere near him. So we're gonna stay away from Canton. But I'm in Boston tonight, so I'll be. I think their hotel is somewhat near us, so maybe we'll do that. But yeah, it was just in the courtroom. I did kind of communicate with Karen, with our eyes. It's just she was scared, man. There was no other way to describe it. She looked frightened. Alan Jackson looked frightened. He was pacing in that courtroom before the O'Keefes got there, puffing and puffing, and he looked scared. And I've never seen him like that before. And it was just the most tense environment I've ever been a part of. And then to hear not guilty, everything in you wants to erupt and just cheer. And you're in the courtroom as a reporter and you can't. You got to, So I almost cried, man. If you see that, I don't know if it's on video at all in the courtroom. I was literally crying. And I'm there was no, and then they whisk you out of there. So I didn't even get a chance to say, hug the Reed family or anything like that. They just whisk you out of there. And then, I hugged Karen briefly on the way out when she was, but it was just a mob scene, so looking forward to seeing them soon.
Oh my God! What do you think is next for Karen? I mean, I want her to recoup some money. I've been saying I want her to go and make the Good Morning America pay her $10 million to talk or something. She deserves. She hadn't been able to work.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know what her next plan is to make money, but I would assume she's gonna have no shortage of book opportunities, movie deals. I mean, I just announced right after this movie was over, it was announced that I've signed a movie deal. My rights have been signed by a motion picture company called Compelling Pictures, who was doing a documentary on me as well. And so, now it's time to do the victory tour. Now it's time to soak it all in. And she might not never sue the state or get anything from them, but there are ways to recoup your losses, by monetizing what you've been through, and she deserves it, Billy. She deserves it.
I think so too. And what about the next step within the state? I mean, there's obviously great suspicion amongst people that live in Massachusetts about law enforcement, the judicial system. People are suspect. They want things to change. They think that the thin blue line is too tight. And something's got to happen. So, I mean, some people are talking about, do the feds come in? Do they investigate? Is there anything that you'll be calling for?
I mean, I'll be calling for the feds to investigate, but I won't hold my breath if they don't. I don't think they really answer to, journalists. But, and they also work in the dark, like you don't know what they're doing. They don't announce what they're doing. They've claimed that their investigation is over. I hope that's not true, but if it is what it is, and there's not much we can do about it. In the meantime, sacrificing an innocent person and putting them in jail isn't going to get any justice for John. And about the police, one cop has been fired, Michael Proctor, but all these other bad guys are still on the job. Brian Tully and Yuri Buchanan were down there today. They were in the courthouse, and they were seen lurking outside afterwards. Hank Brennan is too gutless to show his face afterwards. He still hasn't released a statement. He's a coward. He took $1 million in taxpayer money when it's all said and done and lost. He couldn't even get a tie. He couldn't even get a mistrial like Adam Lally could get. So he's just too gutless. And they didn't even push for a sentencing. Like, he could have asked for 2.5 years if he wanted to, but that would require coming back and showing your face again in that courtroom. And he's such a gutless coward that he couldn't even do that. And he offered a year probation and the defense took it.
Wow. What about Michael Morrissey? What about Governor Maura Healey? Doesn't she have a responsibility to say something right now? At least address this and face have a press conference and take questions?
Yeah, she should have said something a long time ago. She released one statement after Michael Proctor's text got out, but that's all she said. What are we going to do about this rot in the Massachusetts State Police that enabled this? If you ask, I got a buddy who's a good friend who's a state trooper, and he knows Karen Reed's innocent. And he said that, on the job, he goes, most state troopers think she's guilty, most. And that's just unacceptable. Like,
really?
I don't want to be policed by anybody who is that stupid, who is just that dumb. I mean, 12 jurors just sat through 3 months of testimony and 4 doctors said John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car, period. If you're dumb enough to think that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, you shouldn't be police. You shouldn't be allowed to investigate others. You're just not qualified for the job. It's like a doctor that doesn't know how to do a surgery, or doesn't wash their hands. It's like you're too incompetent to do this job. You can't see what's right in front of you.
Talking to Turtleboy right now, Aidan Kearney. He's a man who mobilized the citizenry in support of Karen Reed, and a great victory for her today, and obviously for you. I think there's a civil trial that is still in front of Karen. What do you think? Are they going to any chances of that gets dropped given what just happened?
No, that's going to get settled. So that the insurance company, Karen's not even paying for that. Her attorneys are paid for by her insurance company. They'll pay for you if you get sued for stuff like that. And these insurance companies, they are incentivized to just settle. So because it's cheaper to settle a lawsuit than it is to continue to pay a team of lawyers to fight it. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of NDA and they gave them $50,000 to go away under the table or something like that. That's the most that they're going to get out of that. Karen Reed won't pay a penny.
Got to say, some of the best remarks I heard were from Bill Reed, Karen's father, outside. He walks down the court. He grabs the microphone and he delivers a very eloquent, gracious speech of gratitude about that legal team. I will say that legal team, that a family has formed here. You know, I've seen some
Yes.
videos of Alan, cooking dinner for everybody, but they really came together in something very, very unique. But the legal team is really great. That Bob Alessi has a bright future, man, and Yannetti, and they're all accomplished already. But boy, I thought Bill Reed was really eloquent when he acknowledged
they love
them.
that. Yeah, they love that. They love that woman. She's more than just a client to them. She's a friend. Her and Elizabeth Little are very close friends. And if God forbid something had happened, or like they would have been devastated. Personally, like they've seen clients of theirs go to jail all the time, and nothing would have hurt like the sting of Karen Reed going to jail. So I'm sure they're so excited, and they'll be bonded together forever for the fine work that they've done in exonerating this innocent woman.
Did you think this was going to happen?
Yes, I mean I did. When he said not guilty, I was not surprised at all. Like based on the questions that the jurors were asking yesterday, it was pretty obvious that was the way that they were leaning, and just the amazing defense that was put on. Like you knew that there's no way they can ever convict this woman. So the worst case mistrial, best case acquittal, and that's what ended up happening. So I wasn't surprised at all when I heard that.
Turtleboy, I really appreciate your time. Aidan Kearney right there. He is driving home with a big smile across his face. You look like, if you, I think you could be a good actor. So we're talking about the Karen Reed movie. I've been talking about streaming this morning. I think you play yourself. I think you've got some chops. I don't think anybody can play Turtleboy. Somebody suggested I play Turtleboy. I said, what are you talking about? Turtleboy plays Turtleboy. He doesn't need any.
I like it. I like the way you're thinking, man. I like the way you're thinking. I'll tell Compelling that, see what they say.
What do you think of Amy Schumer as Judge Beverly?
That could work. That could definitely work. I could totally see that.
Olivia
She's only
Wilde.
young for the role.
Olivia Wilde is Karen Reed.
I think Margot Robbie would be a good Karen Reed.
Yeah,
I could see that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. What about who plays Alan Jackson? I got Ben Affleck, or is he too tall?
A little tall. I'd have to think about that one. But maybe make Mark Ruffalo. But anyway, I gotta go. I got Howie Carr on the other line.
Oh,
thanks for having me, though.
Give Howie my love. I love Howie Carr, one of the great radio personalities in this in the country. Rocks Boston.
Yeah, will do. All right, I'll
tell
talk
Howie
to you.
I said hi. All right. Howie Carr is one of the great voices. There goes Turtleboy, Aidan Kearney. Just think of this guy. I mean, he got pissed off. That's what he did. He got pissed off and said, what is going on? What are they doing with this woman? And he started tweeting, and he started making noise, and people found him, and they came out in droves. And that crowd built and built and built. It's a very impressive thing that he did. Vinny over here is operating the chat. What are people saying?
Well, we got a donation for $20 from Sandra saying, I love you, buddy. So glad I found you on here. Corruption there is disgusting. I pray to God they keep diving into this. P.S. I'm available if you ever need me out there to report with Peter. Justice for the O'Keefes. O'Keefes.
What do you do about the O'Keefes now? You know what I mean? Yeah, bring back Valerie. I'd love to talk to Valerie Hands here, who is a professor, and jury deliberation is her expertise. Professor at Cornell University, so very accomplished. Valerie, I wonder what sticks out to you, regarding this trial and this jury and this verdict.
Yeah, I think one of the things that sticks out is how different it is from a lot of other prosecutions. I mean, in many first-degree murder cases in particular, the prosecution lays out its case and the defense says, it's just not sufficient to prove our defendant did it, but doesn't really come up with an alternative way of having the killing occur, but not with the defendant. And so here, the jury was really forced to think, I think, very systematically about how the evidence on both sides made for compelling stories and which one seemed most consistent with the evidence. So in that way, I think it was a really well fought trial, especially from the defense perspective. So I think that's one thing. The other thing I got to say is I felt sorry for the jury because of that verdict form and their obvious confusion. In ordinary conversation, if you're confused, you're able to say, hey, what does this mean? I'm confused about this. But we really structure the interaction between judge and jury, and for a super good reason. It protects the independence of the jury. We make sure that nothing's happening, people are not influencing the jury unless it's very structured and recorded. And we know about it. So in that way, it's key to the jury's independence, but it also makes it very difficult when you have something like a confusing verdict form to actually get to a place where the jury understands fully. I think it eventually happened, but that's my take.
Well, I think one thing the court did and the judge Kearney did that was commendable, I guess, is the protection of the jury. It sure seemed to me that, there's no evidence that they had outside information, that they were, on social media, or they were getting their news in any way. I mean, it seems to me they were protected. It seems to me they were cordoned off. It seems to me, I do understand that you have to have that very strict communication thing. So on that front, they're getting a lot of crap today. For the way they handled everything. The people are against the judicial system in Massachusetts. Do you get that sense that that this state has a bit of a problem?
I don't know. Let me just say that I think high-profile trials really are so super demanding for the court, for judges, for the lawyers who are involved in it. In this case, there were complicating factors like the verdict form that you and I both talked about. So I think, they're doing.
And is that different in every state? Sorry to interrupt you, but is that different in every state, or does every, or county, or is a jury verdict slip, which they call it, pretty much the same? It's a homogeneous form,
No. It's not at all. In fact, judges are the ones who eventually, in a trial, have to decide finally on the form of the jury. Now, each of the sides will make arguments about what should be included in the form, what it should look like, how it should be structured, and they do that, to various degrees of success. But it's definitely something that I think generally needs to be improved, like nationwide. We need to know more about just how really we should be structuring these forms to maximize understanding so that, when a jury actually has, for example, in the first trial, reached some verdicts, but is hung on one of the charges, that we're able to let them understand what it is that they should do, what the next step is.
So from your perspective, finally, did Judge Beverly Kearney do a good job with this jury, or because of that hiccup there at the end that with the jury verdict slip and having to kind of overturn herself for rejecting the defense's motion to have it amended, would you say she did a good job, or would you say
I think
the jury did a good job?
She corrected what she needed to correct, and eventually the jury, as it usually does, seems to have gotten the verdict right.
Valerie Hans, thank you so much. I almost went to Cornell University for lacrosse back in the day when Richie Moran was the coach. You weren't there then. You're too young.
No.
Too young. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
What a very fortunate thing. She's the top expert there. Vin, what's going on over there in the chat section? We got people coming in from all over the place. It's just absolutely amazing to me how many people.
Yeah, right now we have like 5,577 people live with us. Some donations too from Aunt BB2. Justice is coming for John.
Justice for John.
Just a lot of love for Karen. Not too many questions, but just people showing their support. I haven't seen one person, disagree with the verdict. So
yeah, I reached out to Joe Krosky, who's a guy that I fought with on a few fronts. Oh, there he is. There's Krowski. I think he's got a second. Should we have one last fight with Joe Krosky? I think Krowski thought for sure that it was getting. He thought that the state would prevail. He thought the Commonwealth would prevail. He thought that Karen was guilty, and he stuck with it. Yeah, I'm sending it right now. All right, there goes Krowski. We'll get him in a couple seconds. Isn't this great? You can just text the guy. But he's on his way on a vacation. I was going to bust his chops. But here you go. Take a look at this moment right there. There's David Yannetti hugging Karen. Yeah. Her lawyers, Yannetti on the left, Little on the right, Bob Alessi in the back. Look at David. These are her defense lawyers, and he's in tears. You don't see that. I never see that. Do you think if Diddy gets off, Mark Agnifilo, his lawyer, is going to be in tears behind him? I don't think so. He's going to be like, get me the fuck away from this guy. Oh, my God, and there's Alan. I thought they would make a nice couple. Is Alan Jackson married? Can you Google that? I think they make a nice, oh, my gosh. Krowski wants you to email the link there. I only have his text, but that's what stuns me, is how many people came out in favor and support of this woman. It's just mind-boggling to me. It's incredible. And she's been out of work for 3.5 years going after this. And she's got, her boyfriend died. And did you notice how Karen said that at the end of the trial? She was very wisely in this moment of victory and obviously elation and the release of so much stress. She said, now we can honor John. She lost her boyfriend and all this. They had a tempestuous relationship at times. I think she's a fiery woman anyway, No one's saying Karen Reed is perfect. But they're saying that this, there's a great sense of injustice of getting pinned on her. And John O'Keefe's mother did not like her from the very beginning. Peggy O'Keefe really did not like Karen Reed. She showed up that on the way to the hospital in the morning when she got word that John was in the hospital, she was on the phone with Karen Reed. And she called her, and she was furious, She's like, what do you mean? Where is he? What happened? You left him? What do you mean? Yeah, I left him at the party. You left him? How could you leave him? Like he needed a 108-year-old, 108-pound woman to protect him when he goes to fellow cop's house. He should be fine. If he wants to stay out, that's fine with me. But now, what happens here? We're going to turn right now to Joe Krosky.
Test the mic.
Hey, Joe, baby, there you are. Joe Krosky. Can you hear me, Joe? There is Joe Krosky, criminal defense attorney from Boston. Joe was outspoken that he thought Karen Reed was guilty. He thought the prosecution was doing its thing and that they would prevail in the end. Joe, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Yes, I can, sir. Well, what do you think here? The verdict is in.
Well, the verdict is in, and, we have to respect the verdict. We have to respect the jurors. This isn't going to resolve it for a lot of people. Of course, this was a very divisive case. But as a lawyer, there was a trial tried ably by both sides, experienced attorneys, a hard-fought battle. And, the jury has spoken. We have to respect jury verdicts. They have found her not guilty on, 95% of the charges, and certainly the anchor charges, the most serious charges.
So what happens now? The civil trial, paint this out for me. You've seen this a million times. What happens next for Karen?
I think you've seen it in other high-profile cases. Some people have compared this to O.J. Simpson. I think Karen herself did that. The civil standard for the burden of persuasion is preponderance of the evidence. It's just more likely than not. So you heard people over and over and over telling the defense, and they heeded the advice to ditch the conspiracy and just try it on reasonable doubt. Well, preponderance is a much lesser standard. It's just more likely than not. So I would imagine the family is still going to pursue the civil suit. I know that there were civil attorneys that were present at the courthouse for much of the trial. But again, that's not set in stone. I don't pretend to have any inside information on that.
All right, Joe, now that the jury has spoken, does any part of you have room to entertain the idea that maybe a fight occurred between some of these guys and John O'Keefe?
Well, again, I want to caution this because I really respect the jury system. So you're asking the question, so I'm going to answer it, but I'm not going to make excuses or sound like sour grapes. But no, I do not believe that an objective view of the evidence supports the conclusion that there was some sort of a fight. It just doesn't make sense with the timeline, with the unassailable data. Certainly there was some issues and, it was capitalized on by the defense. I think what really hurt the Commonwealth was Sortabello, the ME, jumped to a conclusion that the method of death was undetermined early on and never went and sought additional information related to the investigation to modify her report. It's a really tough prosecution and uphill battle when your own medical examiner has it undetermined on the death certificate. And certainly there's another story to be told here about the influence of the media, social media, the new media, the community, and all that took place. But I don't think today's the day to get into that because, today is their day. They won the day.
Do you think that Massachusetts has a problem? That people...
No.
You don't think so? I
ahead.
do. I'm picking it up all over the place. People are suspect. They're suspect of the way law enforcement is and the judicial system in Massachusetts. I get that vibe, and maybe I'm not looking deep enough, but from what I feel and what I see, it seems like there's a problem.
So Massachusetts, and look, we get criticized for being one of the more liberal and progressive states in the country, which we are. We accept that. We've got the best universities, the best hospitals, the best public education system, probably in the world. I spend my time day in, day out in these court systems. And certainly I have gripes that other defense attorneys probably have nationwide about issues surrounding racial profiling, about issues surrounding police accountability. But we are probably ahead of the curve as it relates to that issue. We have a very robust Brady list now. When even if a officer is found to be not credible in a case on a motion hearing, his name gets put on a list and that gets turned over to defense counsel for all cases that officer touches or has any connection to. A lot of this was hyperbolized. Certainly the texts and some other things were highlighted, but the unique thing about this case is the federal involvement, which probably brought to light and put information out there that probably would not be part of any other case or prosecution.
The prosecution spent an enormous amount of money trying to convict Karen Read, and they failed badly. And there was just too much inexplicable evidence that remains. People are always going to be left with the nighttime butt dials, with the dog bites across the arm, with the rehoming of the dog and the selling of the house and the fact that Brian Albert never came out to his lawn. Don't tell me you slept through that. I don't care how drunk you were. Never came out. That Jen McCabe never went in to get him as the only guy who has an experience with first responder, skills. That Michael Proctor, that there was no taillight on the lawn until way after the fact. It seemed that it was planted. The 42 minutes missing from the Sallyport garage tape where Michael Proctor was back behind. The fact that the tape was handed in reverse in the first place. The guy's camera across the street, the Ring camera, not available from the retired cop across. There's so much, Joe. It's just, I think in the end, there's no way you convict Karen Read. There's no way.
Let me say this. I've been on before, and you always give me a chance to respond to those. And you raised, 8 to 10 points, and most of them, in all fairness, have been debunked. I mean, I could point a few of them out right now, but today's not the day for that. But talking about the public policy of spending that type of money on the prosecution, I think Mike Morrissey should be applauded for doing that because he's a politician, and following through in this prosecution was not the politically expedient thing to do. He took a lot of criticism to do it, but he did it because he believed in the case, and the family, John O'Keefe's family, believed in the case. So he wasn't looking at the polls. He wasn't looking at what people were reporting in social media. He made a conscious decision to do it. And look, Hank Brennan stood up there and did 99% of the evidence and the witnesses against a well-financed team. And again, I don't want to sound like a poor sport, but I think even if you had Karen Read on video backing into John O'Keefe, there were people on that jury that were never going to vote to convict her. I mean, one of the jury questions referred to her as Karen, not the defendant. A social media blogger reported that one of the persons on the jury winked or nodded at Mr. Reed yesterday. So there was a lot of that. And I was there yesterday. I saw that sea of pink, and they all have, family members. There was an overwhelming pressure put on that jury to acquit. And again, you're having me on the show, so I don't want to sound like I'm taking anything away from the verdict. You have to respect the verdict, and it's a not guilty. But I think we should have some humility and integrity. And I think what Hank Brennan did, stepping into the fire and fighting that fight and working tirelessly in a case he believed in.
There's one member of the prosecution that won. There's one victorious member of the prosecution, and that is Adam Lally, who was the prosecutor the first time around, because he got a hung jury, and Hank Brennan lost across the board. You're going on vacation.
I am.
All right.
I am.
Joe, I appreciate
much deserved one.
Joe, yeah, absolutely, and thank you very much for your time. We respect a different opinion here. That's the way we got to operate in America. There goes the great Krowski. Thanks, man. No, they don't love him in the chat. The chat is not a place for, the Bushman here can be a statesman, all right? And I like Joe. We have mutual friends. I understand Joe. He's dug in. Some people are going to say he's compromised. He represented, Colin Albert, in a DUI offense, years ago, and whatever else. And who knows what his experiences are in life and where he comes from. But look, they lost. Right?
Yeah.
I knew it was going to. Everything I said, and I wasn't even halfway through. I didn't even get to Higgins destroying his SIM card, on a military base, and there's a million other things. All right, so let's go to our. All right, Peter, I'm going to go to an absolute all-star. We gotta close this part of it here, going to our most valuable player. I'm going to say most valuable police officer, and that is my friend Peter Murphy, who I'm told you need to turn on your camera, Peter. I'm told you don't have your camera on, but we see his name right there, Peter Murphy. Murph, turn on your camera. We got to see your handsome face. Oh, he's with the ladies.
Hey, you know what? Getting into this Zoom was more difficult than doing 26 weeks in the police academy. I'm just saying, all right?
Who's that lovely-looking girl you're with?
This is Rebecca. She is one of our superstars. And this is Whitey. He is a superstar from Canton. He was the lead vocalist at the town select board meetings. Called them all out. Told them they were all complicit.
Wow.
And Chris Albert actually accused him of assault and battery, and he's still on probation for another week or 10 days. And it was all framed. They had 4 witnesses.
I got to tell you, Peter Murphy always has a surprise. He's always got a cabal of great Cantonites all around him wherever he goes. Oh, my God. Peter, how are you feeling today? How's everybody? Are you all celebrating? Are you all feeling victorious?
We are celebrating, for sure. It was one of the most emotional days I've had in my lifetime, standing there looking at 1,200 people, breathless, waiting for the verdict to come out. You saw it. I was live with you. You saw it. You saw it live.
Yeah, I got it. You got to put the camera on yourself when you talk to me, Peter. I love it because, you got
Okay, buddy. Hey, you know what I mean? I'm a little camera shy over the years, but here I am.
Oh, you are not camera shy. If there's one person that's not camera shy, it's the great Saj, Peter Murphy. Murph, you've been a warrior. What are we doing? We going out for drinks tonight?
Well, we have an after party going here. I got about 12 people in front of me at a friend's house in Canton, and we got a 50 caliber pointed at the parking lot where our cars are to make sure the McAlberts don't come by.
Perimeter setup.
And a matter of fact, we even went to the Animal Rescue League or the shelter and got a German Shepherd, and we named it Chloe, and Chloe's on a long leash.
He went to the. Tell me that's real. I mean, I know you're kidding, but that is really funny.
I am kidding. Yep. But here's a quick view of the people that are here.
Oh, there we go.
These guys are solid people, Billy. They're boots on the ground. They have stood with me, and I have stood with them for 2.5 years in heat and cold, snow, sleet. The first trial, the second trial, hearings, incredible people.
Peter, I want to say something. One of the great, I've enjoyed being a part of this trial in a major way, covering it. We've been all over it from the beginning. I've really seen an uprising here in people that is great. And I think justice was served today. I disagree with Mr. Krowski, who was on. I think justice was served today, and I think it's a step in the right direction for everyone. And when they say nobody hates a bad cop like a good cop, you, sir, are one of the great cops I've ever met in my life, and a new friend. So I just want to tell you, I love you, and I'm telling you, I promise you, when I come to town, I'm taking you out. We're going to have the best time.
Billy, I can't tell you how much I enjoy. I've been on several different, platforms and blogs and content shows, and I've had more people call me with favorable reports saying, you and Billy just hit it off so well. You guys work so well together. How long have you been doing this? I said, first time. They said, you got to be kidding me. The chemistry between you two guys is amazing.
Well,
And
maybe we'll do Murph and the Bushman mornings on Kiss 108 if Maddie ever gets tired. Murph and the Bushman. All right.
All right, buddy. Listen, I don't know what to tell you other than this was the most exhilarating day, and I just very emotional. Couple of other cops, Sean on the Gulf. He and I have talked about this before a year and a half ago, and we both said the same thing. Neither of us were ever involved in a more engrossing case than what we've had here, and we've covered deaths and we've covered murders and vehicular homicides. We have good friends who killed, but this was the most troubling trial that I have ever been in, and God forbid, I just don't want to have to go through another one. I just pray the feds come in, Leah Foley comes in, and they lock up the third-party culprits, all the dirty cops and DAs and state troopers and Canton cops. I hope there's a roundup, and I got my head on a swivel, and they better take their first shot and make it good.
Buddy, well said. And that's the final word right there. Murph, will be in touch. I love you so much. There goes Peter Murphy, retired after 30 years in the Canton Police Department as a sergeant in good standing. He withstood a lot. He withstood a lot of backlash from the fellow men in blue, and but he felt an injustice happening. And when you see someone who's obviously as good a person as that man is, that something was wrong there. And this guy, when they say nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop, I mean, there's no way that man doesn't know inside of him after 30 years in the Canton Police Department. He doesn't know inherently inside of him that something's, terribly amiss, that there's a cancer within. I mean, that's obvious. Someone like
Bill,
that doesn't make it up because they're disgruntled former employee or whatever someone wants to say.
Yeah, Bill, I also think that, knowing Peter a little and knowing he's a cop, what is he not telling? When he says, he knows obviously more than he's even lets on, right? That he can't say. That's what I always think too. Once you're deep inside,
Yeah, for sure. Well, it has been one of the great pleasures covering this. We will track down in the next week. I'm telling you, I'm going to get a hold of my friend Alan Jackson. I do know that he is he's under fire from all sides, and they are celebrating and also hopefully negotiating for Karen Reed to get paid. Go do an interview. Tell your story. All right. And before we go, just a couple minutes here. I'm going to shift gears one last time. First of all, I want to tell you Hot Mics is sponsored by LA Golf. And if you were going to tell you the new irons are out right now. And Bryson DeChambeau, he couldn't find the fairway in the U.S. Open. So the irons were tough. But he knocked him out of the park in the LIV tournament the week before, and they're amazing. Custom designed irons from LA Golf, and of course the driver is custom fit for you. You just go to lagolf.com and fill that out. Fill out the survey, and you'll have your own driver made for you. And the putter, I swear to God, I'm a putting machine. I am a putting machine. Thanks to the Tungsten Face Malibu XT putter. Check out the stuff at LA Golf. We love them very much and appreciate their support of Hot Mics. let's end right now with a look at the video. It's Wednesday. That means it's Skinny Vinny time. Skinny Vinny, the Slim Reaper. My assistant Vinny, working the chat over there. In January, I gave Vinny the challenge to lose 50 pounds because he's 5'7" and he was weighing in at 267. I said, Vinny, that's too much.
I don't think we need to say that anymore. I mean, we don't need to we don't need to put the weight out there again. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you got to know. I mean, to know where you're going or where you are, you must know where you've been. Last week, he hit 226. So that's pretty darn good. That means we are looking at 9 more pounds.
Yep.
Let's check out the scale and see what happened. Here he comes. Whoa. 225.2. Hey, down is down, baby. 0.8.
Yeah.
My man. All right. You got
It's
till
coming
July.
down to the wire. I think on that day I'll hit it.
If I were you, the last 2 weeks, I'd hit the cabbage soup diet and cross the line. Then do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks to all the guys in there, and thanks to all of our friends that we've made in Canton and Dedham, Massachusetts. The Karen Reed trial today. Can we roll up a little of the footage here? I want to go out. I want to see Karen Reed one more time as the verdict gets read. Just the hugging, just the beautiful love that was going on there in that courtroom. I think justice was served today, and it was our great pleasure here at Hot Mics to be a part of it. Tears in the eyes of David Yannetti right there, her lawyer that's been with her through trial 1, trial 2. Bob Alessi right there. Look at that. Karen Reed. She's a free woman. All right. Thank you very much for being with us. Hot Mics with Billy Bush is presented by LA Golf. Take your swing to the next level with LA Golf's cutting technology. We will be back here on Monday. All right? And streaming probably... maybe tomorrow morning, Friday. That's been a lot of fun, too. Just appreciate your support. Ta-ta.